Woo!
All those
Oh,
lost.
oh, this is gonna be an exciting week.
Woo!
Oh, so much research, so little time. I actually, there's a lot of bullshit going on this week, but to be quite frank, like, I don't know, man, like, there's a lot of fluff shit going on. It's like everyone's saving their big hits for the week before the election.
Yep.
But I don't know for sure yet. We'll see. Oh, man. I'm excited. Boss is currently in the bathroom. Then we'll be able to get ourselves ready to go. Hey, at least he actually gets to poop. I was having trouble with that. You okay, my dude?
So I'm pre-game a little.
I feel it. I got my little sneak attack. Oh. So, I'm kind of bummed that I didn't hear about that blowjob Booker story before we got live, to be honest. Kind of ridiculous.
Booker? Are you talking about the guy or person who accused him of that shit?
Wait, what?
Yeah, my
Alright,
dude.
I'm back.
So Cory Booker got accused of sexual assault in a restroom, and it was by a man. So now they're calling him blowjob Booker.
Wow.
Whoa. Talk about
He's
going
a
there in the debates.
He's a blowjob Booker. He's all over them whores.
It makes sense.
Well,
Oh man.
what's been his
It's been a
response
fun
to
week,
it?
though. You know, I think
Spartacus on a penis.
this is the closest thing I'll ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment. Don't stop.
Oh my god.
Oh.
The
You
hell
need to
was
tell?
that?
That was my impression of Spartacus.
On a dick.
That
You know,
sounded like
blowjob
you-
Booker. Yeah, you know, that might be what he did in the bathroom.
We are the NBC. Or is it working or what?
Yeah, it's working. I actually really like that title card this week. That's pretty dope.
Robot voice. I'm here.
Alright,
I don't
let
know,
me
it was just one of
see.
Wake up in the morning things.
I'm gonna check on the Twitch. Hey, do you have the link for the combined chat?
Somewhere. Let me
What?
find that.
Oh, I see. Today's show.
There we go, I found it.
Right.
If you just search chat, you'll see it. Okay. So I've got the. Let me open that Chrome. And then
What's up, you guys in the
this
chat?
move. Okay.
Today we've got a guest,
Open deck.
NPC boss.
NPC boss.
All right, my dude. Oh, this
What
is
am
dope.
I
Okay.
supposed to be
Yep.
outraged about
Alright, so-
today?
Literally everything.
What are my 4 a.m. talking points?
Orange man bad.
Hey, so I only did 14 clips this week because we're actually a little light in our regular news categories a little bit.
Really?
So don't be alarmed. Yeah, there's not much going on in North Korea, not much going on with Iran, and Yemen is pretty much status quo. There's some stuff happening in Europe, but the most stuff that's happening in Europe is they're still waiting on fallout from their Brexit negotiations, and it looks like Italy is basically going bankrupt, and it's going to drive a wedge in the EU. So we'll see how that winds up. But we've got a lot to watch. I mean, the majority of our coverage is American political bullshit. I mean, just bullshit stories from throughout the week, and we're gonna watch them. You know,
personally, that kind of scares me when all we have to report on is just American political bullshit. I mean, that kind of makes it seem like that's the only thing that's going on, or they're trying to keep something from us, or something of that nature.
Yep. We do have some pretty big news in the American section that's not just bullshit, but we get. Oh, look, there's Bella. All right.
Knowledge of every episode.
So I think, let's see, we're 5 minutes past the hour. Let's go ahead and get us going, dude. Why don't you bring us in?
Sounds like a good idea.
I'm gonna hit the.
And let's all quiet on the Western Front. Howdy again there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Need to Know podcast. Broadcasting live Sunday, October the 21st, 2018. Episode 19.
God, that month flew by.
Yeah, dude. Time's been going by extremely fast for some reason. It's just kind of freaking me out, man.
You got your Red October pumpkin?
I have not gotten my Red October pumpkin. Unfortunately, I got pork problems. We'll just leave it at that. All right, so
I think we got political with us too.
Yeah, political. Where you at?
What up?
Oh yeah, I totally didn't even introduce everybody. Oh, my bad.
Okay, I cut you off. I cut you off.
I totally forgot. You need to remember to tell me what to do with these things.
God damn it, I love this box. Coming in sporadically, every once in a while.
Political 87, our faithful companion.
Yeah.
What up, ladies and gentlemen?
Political, how you doing, man?
It's trying to attack me, so I'll be in and out for a sec.
Well, at least he's honest.
Did she have the baby yet?
No baby yet, man. No baby yet. Any day now.
Political baby daddy 87. That's what we're at. Okay, so I guess we could probably get on with our show, yeah?
All right.
All right.
So you want to play us into this
from
one?
the top. Well, yeah, so we're going to start from the top. Last week, we were talking a little bit about North Korea, and one of the stories we talked about was that Kim Jong-un was very hopeful and that he might have the Pope come and visit him. Now, we hadn't heard anything about this. It was just really like, oh, I want this. It would be nice if it happened. You know, that'd be really cool. You know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And this
North
week
Korea.
We've got a small development on that. So let's go ahead and watch the video and then we'll discuss.
Tonight we're getting reaction to another rather interesting move by the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. He's inviting Pope Francis to come visit North Korea, which officially is an atheist country. Let's bring in CNN's Brian Todd. Brian, tell us more about this invitation.
Wolf, Kim's invitation was passed to Pope Francis at the Vatican today by South Korean President Moon Jae-in. This is seen tonight as a cynical and pretty brassy move from a dictator who's got thousands of Christians in labor camps.
In the exalted halls of the Vatican today, an audacious gesture made by a brutal dictator. South Korean President Moon Jae-in telling Pope Francis he had been asked to convey an invitation from Kim Jong-un for the pontiff to visit Pyongyang. The Pope said he'll consider going.
What Kim Jong-un probably intends to get out of this is more good PR for the regime.
Analysts say today's invitation is little more than an extension of Kim's charm offensive, another effort to be seen among the world's great statesmen, following his multiple visits with the South Korean president, with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and with President Trump.
Excellent relationship. Thank you.
In reality, experts say the North Koreans have always seen religion as a threat. Evangelist Billy Graham did visit North Korea twice in the 1990s, but Kim's grandfather, the founder of North Korea, held himself out as godlike and prevented all other forms of religion.
Religion was exterminated with extreme prejudice over a period of only a few years under Kim Il-sung.
The U.S. government, in a recent report, said Kim's regime's approach to religion is among the most hostile and repressive in the world, quote, known to arrest, torture, imprison, and even execute religious believers. Christians are major targets.
There are defector reports of North Koreans trying to sneak Bibles across the border from China, being caught, lined up, huge fish hooks put through their ears, chained together, and marched off to Yodok camps, to concentration camps, precisely because they were Christian.
And Americans have been swept up. Kenneth Bay was in a labor camp for nearly 2 years, from 2012 to 2014, accused of planning a religious coup.
Fundamentally, it came down to the fact that he was a Christian missionary, and he was basically accused of proselytizing.
Bay said he carried rocks and shoveled coal every day, got very sick, nearly died, and was given no hope.
There's one prosecutor assigned to my case for the last year of my imprisonment. He came to me almost every week and said, "No one remember you. You have been forgotten by people, your governments."
So what message would the Pope be sending if he goes to Pyongyang?
I do see a role for the Pope and for the Vatican in encouraging diplomacy, encouraging peace. I just don't think going to North Korea would be worth that in terms of the message it would send about how the Vatican itself understands the situation on the ground, which is tragic.
Experts say if he does go to Pyongyang, the Pope could at least make a display of calling for more religious freedom and the release of religious prisoners. They say Kim's regime would likely respond with pleasantries, would reiterate that their constitution calls for religious freedom, and then they would promptly do nothing, since the only religion ever really tolerated in North Korea is the cult of Kim Jong-un. Wolf?
It's even more ironic, Brian, considering that Kim's grandfather had religion in his background, right?
That's right, Wolf. Kim Il-sung was raised as a Christian. The Asia Times newspaper says his father was a graduate of a Christian school, and his mother was actually a deaconess in the Presbyterian Church. Kim Il-sung used Christian images to build his own cult of personality, but analysts say to Kim Il-sung it was all about repression and power.
David Rubin.
It's what most of those religions are all about, to be quite frank.
Power, of course. I mean, when you get into an organized sense like that, of course. Now then, but holy fuck, that's kind of fucking massive.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, if he winds up going up there and they could talk about a lot of things. So, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it.
About them fucking hooks through the ear. I'll be like, hey, motherfucker, why you gotta put a hook through the ear, you fucking asshole?
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, dude. Here's a really screwed up thing about it. If they catch you and you're a North Korean citizen, they take your brother, your sister, your mother, your grandfather, and your children. Like, they take everyone for 3 generations. Generation before, the generation after, and the generation present. It's fucked. So that's why, like, people
They're
just
like, all right, this
obey.
fucker has shit genes. He's not a good slave. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly how it goes. So they just, yeah, that's exactly it. They just wind up with people that are willing to behave. It sucks. All right, moving our way out of North Korea. Oh, yeah, there's that. God damn. And we might get pulled off of Twitch for saying it, but there is a shit load of inbreeding in Pakistan. Oh, oh my God.
We might get pulled off.
Yeah, of course we will. It's not politically correct to say that. It's definitely not politically correct to say that, you know, Muslims are, you know, typically from regions of the world where, you know, inbreeding is not seen as taboo, and so they have problems with trying to find a mate that's not their, you know, extended cousin.
Man, I just pulled you onto a tangent, dude.
Yeah, my bad.
Fuck yeah, man.
Speaking of Islamic countries, there's been a lot of problems this week with the Saudi Arabia alliance that we have, mostly over this whole Jamal Khashoggi thing. And, it's really astounding how people have really come out of the woodwork to, virtue signal their faces off about this, journalist that nobody knew about, nobody cared about, nobody even, it batted an eye towards, when they just didn't give a shit about Benghazi. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of instances where this sort of thing has happened to American citizens. Nobody got upset. So I'm kind of bewildered, to be honest. But to say the least, it's putting a lot of tensions on U.S. Saudi Arabia.
David Rubin is with us now, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and the author of the new book, Trump and the Jews. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stuart.
Now, this is a serious situation here. How far can it go? It's not going to disrupt the Saudi Arabia, Israel, U.S. containment of Iran, is it?
No, well, it's critical that it not disrupt that. Look, President Trump is the world leader. He's the leader in the United States. He's the leader of the free world. So, yes, if something like that happened in the consulate and if the Saudi Arabian government was involved in some way, then it's very problematic and there needs to be very, very strong protest. However, that being said, President Trump has a responsibility to American interests and to the interests of the free world. And that he has formulated a very delicate and very important alliance between Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United States in response to the nuclear threat from Iran, in response to the Iranian support of terrorism throughout the Middle East and throughout the world. And that's something that he cannot disrupt, because if he does, then he's really not taking American interests into account.
What about the $110 billion worth of arms which America proposes to sell to Saudi Arabia? Could that be, should that be, a casualty
That's where
of
the
this
rubber
Khashoggi situation?
The road right there.
Absolutely not. That should not be disrupted, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
Well, okay, hold on a second, David.
Yep.
Okay, you don't want to disrupt the alliance against Iran. You don't want to interrupt this arms sale of $110 billion. What should the response be if we find that there was something dreadful going on in that consulate in Istanbul? What should the response be?
There should be a very strong diplomatic response.
What? Diplomatic?
Yep.
We'll send a strongly worded
You're talking
letter.
about two countries that have an alliance, and that, you have to remember, the United States has always had alliances with countries that don't share our values, okay, that don't share the values of the United States and don't share the values of Israel.
Right.
And in my book, Trump and the Jews, I've written about this quite a bit, that there are times when you have to form relationships with people that are not to your liking, perhaps. And if you look at what...
Wait. Did he say his book was Trump and the Jews, or Trumpin' the Jews?
Trump and the Jews, my dude.
Okay. Just making sure.
Happened in Iran during the Carter administration. Okay, President Carter basically washed off the Shah of Iran and put heavy pressure on him and sanctions in order to stop what he felt was oppression of the Iranian people. And in return for that, we got the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was far more oppressive than the Shah ever was. The same thing happened in Egypt. President Obama put intense pressure on Mubarak, and we lost Mubarak.
Don't desert your allies, even though you can make a case to desert your allies. In this case, Saudi Arabia. Don't desert them, is your message.
Make it clear what American values are, but look after American interests.
David Rubin, always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us, sir. And I appreciate the book, and I appreciate the autograph, too. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'll say this. Okay, so this is my interesting thought. I love these guys that are trying to pressure Trump into going to war with Saudi Arabia, or being like, oh, you got to end all your associations over this shit. I mean, why? Saudi Arabia has the least amount of corruption that it's ever had. Ever.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of a logical argument. I can't think of a logical argument.
Plus, it's looking like this guy might have been actually funded by Rizvi Traverse. So there's a lot to dig there. So that's
Traverse management.
Nice.
That's
And when I say this guy, I mean Jamal Khashoggi.
Khashoggi.
So how about that? That's pretty crazy, right?
Well, I kind of feel like we would need to delve more into Rizvi Traverse management, but I'm pretty sure that the audience is pretty good on digging into that stuff themselves.
Oh yeah, that's actually a huge topic of conversation. But all right, let me look at my list here and see where I'm on. This is what happens when you use a phone. You accidentally hit the. All right. We actually do have one more clip to watch on Saudi Arabia. It's more about what this whole Khashoggi situation does internationally to Saudi Arabia. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. This one's from CBS News.
And thank you for joining us. The Saudi Arabian government now says Jamal Khashoggi died during a fist fight at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. The announcement came more than 2 weeks after Khashoggi entered the consulate and was never seen again. CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams is in Istanbul with the latest.
Kind of like Stuart Nelson's
In the middle of the night, local time, Saudi Arabia finally admitted that Jamal Khashoggi had died inside the Saudi consulate, in the words of an official statement, after getting into a fight and a quarrel that led to his death. The kingdom expresses its deep regret, it went on. 18 Saudi nationals have been arrested by their government and several officials have been fired, including the former deputy head of intelligence, thought to have been close to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Saudi Arabia's explanation has left many people deeply sceptical. Khashoggi was a veteran journalist and outspoken critic of the Saudi government, and he apparently entered the consulate here to get paperwork he needed to marry his Turkish fiancée.
He'd been living in exile in the US since last year over fears for his safety. But the Saudi explanation was a good first step, proclaimed President Trump, and once again argued against cancelling lucrative US military contracts with Saudi Arabia.
But I would prefer that we don't use as retribution cancelling $110 billion worth of work, which means 600,000 jobs.
Turkish officials, speaking anonymously, have told journalists they believe Khashoggi was tortured, murdered and dismembered inside the consulate by a 15-man Saudi team that left Turkey soon afterwards. Several of them reportedly had links to the Crown Prince, including one who apparently accompanied the prince to the US this year. The prince, in what some will see as an irony, has now been put in charge of a committee to reform the country's intelligence agency.
And Holly Williams joins us now with more. Holly, where does this leave the Saudi Crown Prince? He's got many close connections to those who have been fired or arrested.
Well, Rena, I think there's no question at all that it's hugely damaging to him. The Saudi government has spent just colossal sums of money in the last year or so, burnishing his image as a reformer, as a liberalizer, as the young prince who's going to somehow lead Saudi Arabia into a modern economy and a more moderate form of Islam. Instead, I think a lot of people now, when they think of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, will think of the events that have transpired here in Istanbul over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And you have to assume that there are businesses and governments that will now see interactions with him more as a liability than anything else. And there will be many people who continue to suspect that his connection with the death of Jamal Khashoggi is much closer than the Saudi authorities have acknowledged. On the other hand, we've heard time and time again from President Trump saying that he doesn't want what happened here to do too much damage to the relationship, and in particular the economic relationship. I think the big question is what happens inside Saudi Arabia. It's not a democracy. It's not a country with a free press.
We don't need to. She can shut up. Anyway, so here's the deal with that, right? So if it actually happened, and say like the prince's person, right? Okay, let's just say the worst case scenario, right? That he ordered his bodyguards to go kidnap this guy, lure him into the consulate so they could dismember his body and fly back home real quick, all right?
Orange man
let's
is
assume
bad.
Exactly, orange man bad. So let's assume that's the status quo. Now, is it enough to change our diplomatic stance with Saudi Arabia? No.
Probably not. I wouldn't put money on that.
It would be a bad idea
some
too.
Shit, that's for sure.
Well, the thing is like when we don't pay attention to Saudi Arabia and Israel, they do dumb shit like try to invade Iran. So they kind of like we kind of can't leave that can of worms to go fend for itself, at least not currently. So yeah, I have serious reservations about this whole situation. The fact that the journalist was funded by Rizvi Traverse kind of bothers me a lot. So yeah, we'll see. We'll watch and see, but I don't think anything's going to come of this. I think this is the most that's going to happen, and I bet you that they're going to try to drag it out for weeks with the same talking. They think this is a bombshell and that it's going to win them the election, and it's not going to do a damn thing.
I say it's got about another week to it.
God, if they milk this out for another week, that might constitute a record. It's like the biggest forced story of all time. Oh, man. So, switching gears here. Back to Syria. I didn't hear about this. I just saw this clip before I submitted the show notes, so I had to include it so that we could get going. But apparently the United States got accused of dropping white phosphorus in Syria.
Wait, we got accused of that?
Yep. Guess who's covering it?
Oh. We start this hour in Syria, where this week the U.S. was accused of conducting airstrikes in the province of Deir ez-Zor. The Syrian Arab News Agency, or Sana, reported the strikes took place in the town of Hajin, adding local sources claim white phosphorus was deployed in the attack. As a result, Syria's foreign ministry sent a formal request to the United Nations demanding an investigation into the strikes. The letter reads, quote, Syria's once again calling on the UN Security Council to take responsibility for ensuring peace and security throughout the world and to conduct an international investigation into the crimes, to condemn them, and to take immediate measures to stop them and prevent the reoccurrence. The Geneva Conventions prohibit the use of white phosphorus in civilian areas. This is not the first time the U.S.-led coalition has been accused of deploying the munition in Syria. However, last month, the Russian Ministry of Defense charged 2 F-15 fighter jets with dropping white phosphorus in that same Syrian town. The Pentagon denied those reports. What's more, RT Arabic visited the city of Hama in 2017 and spoke with civilians who made similar accusations. Shortly after freelance reporter Khalid Al-Khatib filed these interviews, he was killed in shelling carried out by the self-proclaimed Islamic State.
Our houses are burnt, water is cut, agriculture has stopped. Now we can't water our crops, they are burnt. There is no yield. They struck Al Abidi Bridge in Ez-Zor. They completely destroyed the bridge. It cost the country billions.
They struck them with phosphorus bombs in Raqqa. They struck them with phosphorus in Jazara. They struck them with phosphorus in the first neighborhood in Tabqa. They struck them with phosphorus and in Al-Safsat phosphorus.
With U.S. strikes in Syria in question, we're joined now by former UK MP George Galloway. George, based on the track record of the United States, are you surprised by allegations it's deploying white phosphorus in Syria?
I think you borrowed it from Kim
Not
Jong-un.
remotely. The United States used white phosphorus against the people of Fallujah in the west of Iraq in the immediate aftermath of the invasion and occupation of that country. I have actually been present when white phosphorus munitions were being dropped. I've been in hospitals in Beirut in 1982 next to small children with white smoke coming out of their mouths and their noses as the white phosphorus ate its way through them, through their respiratory tracts, into their lungs, and of course all over their skin. So it's no surprise that this munition used against civilians is completely illegal. And the United States stands now accused of a brazen illegal act, compounding the fact that every bomb dropped by the United States in Syria is illegal. It has absolutely no basis in international law. It's unsanctioned by the Security Council of the United Nations, and the United States and Britain, for that matter, are operating in Syria entirely illegally. That makes them criminals. That makes them brigands, bandits. It's funny, isn't it? We never hear the mainstream media in your country or mine describe our armed forces in such language.
No, in fact, the opposite of true. When it's true, whenever the Syrian government is accused of using chemical weapons, the UN Security Council holds dramatic meetings, usually starring U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley and her condemnations of Assad. Is there a double standard when it comes to allegations of the use of chemical weapons in Syria there?
Gigantic, but that doesn't surprise me.
Pause it. Pause it.
Got it paused.
That right there. I want you to understand, boys. Maybe you understand. Maybe the audience don't get it. RT is approved by the Kremlin.
Yep.
What about their chemical weapons? What about their fucking shit? Okay. Well, let's find out, shall we?
Russian narrative falling apart.
Me coming from perfidious Albion and Uncle Sam. What is the most shameful thing, I know I keep going on about this, is the double standards of the correspondents, the commentators, the pundits, the broadcasters, all of whom must know that what I'm saying to you and you're saying to me is absolutely unassailably true. Yet none of them ever say it.
Why?
They are ready at the drop of a hat to go into paroxysms of horror and to demand action if there's an allegation of the use of, say, a chlorine shell in Douma, though it turned out not to be true. Yet here is clear evidence, and not just in Syria, but in Iraq before it, a clear evidence of absolutely illegal use of a chemical weapon. What is white phosphorus other than a chemical weapon? The clue is in the name.
Well, I want to get your analysis on the situation in Syria overall, because general consensus is that the war is drawing to a close as the Syrian government liberates final territories from control of extremists. Earlier this week, though, a U.S. general declared that Israel is prepared to destroy the S-300 missile defense system, which Russia delivered to the country last month. Do you believe Israel would be willing to escalate the war so drastically at this stage?
Well, the consequences, I think, would be very grave, and working on the assumption that the missile cannot be destroyed. The purpose of the missile is to destroy the destroyer. So that kind of escalation is very reckless talk indeed. Russia has a special, if troubled, relationship with Israel, and I'd be very surprised if even Netanyahu were ready to do that. But it does beg the question of when the so-called allies will take no for an answer. Almost the whole of Syria is now liberated. Almost all of the alphabet soup of Islamist extremism is now drained away, but they still continue to occupy a part of Syrian land, and it cannot end well. Going back to my Beirut experience, the United States Marines left Beirut in boxes, and I say to the mothers of today's American service personnel, please do not allow your children to be used by the US government in this way, because one way or another, Syria will be free of all foreign occupation. All history tells us that that's how it will end. And let's end it before it gets even bloodier for Western forces than it's already been for the Syrian people themselves.
Especially now that we're hearing U.S. generals say they plan on staying in Syria indefinitely. That point is very pertinent to make. So thank you so much, former UK MP George Galloway. As always, it's a pleasure.
How about that?
Oh, man. We were thinking we were supposed to be, Russian bots.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, Trump is totally run by the Russians.
Then again, they're just accusing us of, white phosphorus. So
speaking of Russian bots, Good segue, by the way. We actually have a Twitter video.
Oh,
Apparently,
shit.
Twitter is releasing more data about. Drum roll, please. Election interference from Russia and Iran.
Oh, ding, 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 ding.
The country that's on the verge of a democratic revolution and the country they think upset their progressive revolution.
Twitter says it found 10 million influence campaigns, possibly posted by state-backed Iranian and Russian trolls.
Million with an M?
This involves activity posted on the platform since 2009. The data sets include nearly 4,000 accounts affiliated with Russia's Internet Research Agency and over 700 accounts originating in Iran. Also included are over 10 million tweets and 2 million other types of media, such as images, GIFs, and videos. Twitter suspended accounts from Iran with ties to the government, and the company says it's now releasing all this content to enable further independent academic research and investigations. And CNET senior producer Dan Patterson joins us now. So, Dan, what exactly happened and what do we know?
So Twitter released documents that showed tens of thousands of tweets. Of these tweets, they found influence campaigns from both Russia and from Iran. Now, there wasn't as much influence campaign content from Iran as with Russia, but it was very apparent that Iran had political motivations and that they had taken many of the tactics that Russia perfected in 2016 and were using those for political reasons.
God,
do we have a sense, Dan, of exactly what Iran was targeting?
There it is.
Well, Iran generally targets regional interests. So they go after Israel for the Knesset elections. They go after Saudi Arabia. In this case, it appears as though some of their targets were American, but we really don't know how political and what their aspirations were beyond politics. So we didn't see something directly targeting the 2018 election, but we saw hints at that.
Have your sources been able to indicate exactly who may have taught Iran these tactics?
Yeah, it looks as though Iran learned from Russia's IRA. How can
they tell that, Dan?
So they can tell that because some of the language that was used in these tweets and by how frequent those tweets were. So we see similar behavior patterns. When you look at data maps of how the IRA posted on not just Twitter, but Instagram, Facebook, and other social networks, we see very similar behavior come from Iran.
When you look at this, I think the big concern for people now, we're just weeks away from midterms. Is there concern, is Twitter vocal about how this could possibly affect midterms?
So Twitter has said that they are tamping down on these, what they call coordinated attempts to influence not just the campaign, but the service in general.
Maybe they have
we don't necessarily know that Iran is targeting the midterms, but we know that there are a number of foreign actors who are involved. Attribution is really, really hard in cyber, so it's pretty fair for companies like Facebook and Twitter and other social networks to say, look, we don't really know right now, but we're looking into the forensics. However, what we do know is that the content of this, of these tweets and of what Iran posted really has political overtones without being overtly for one partisan side or the other.
Dan, it's hard to forget over the summer how the head of various intel organizations in the U.S. and the Department of Homeland Security all came out as a united front saying we are on election hacking issues for 2018. Do you get the sense, are the folks in the cyber world as convinced as the intelligence community is that they're on top of this and that they're not concerned that something could happen in November?
The intelligence community is incredibly concerned that there are coordinated efforts, and some attribution has gone back to Russia on this. Election security is not something that the social networks or the intelligence community take lightly, although it's really hard when we look at things like critical infrastructure and other more technical components of hacking to say, well, the Russians are going to do X, Y, and Z. What we know is that when election day comes and goes, these influence campaigns do not stop. So every campaign is the next campaign for many of our adversaries.
Are folks in the cyber world happy with the way Twitter and Facebook have responded to these disinformation campaigns?
It appears as though when Twitter puts out a blog post that says, hey, look, we got rid of a certain number of tweets or content posts on the site, because it also includes Periscope broadcasts, that this is perfunctory. So they say we're responding to regulators. The intelligence community looks at this and says, look, the mechanics of how your network operates is what is being exploited right now. And there really needs to be fundamental changes in how networks operate from not just the content consumption perspective, but how advertising works in those networks. We see social media adjust, but it seems to be pretty slow.
Dan Patterson, thank you for joining us, Dan.
A high school marching.
Whew. Oh man, the next video is spicy. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
Thank you, Dan, for making everything feel better.
I know, right? He's just like, don't worry, Twitter's got it under control. Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
I trust the private industry. I trust the government.
CrowdStrike was right. 17 intelligence agencies. Don't lie.
The thing that's awesome for me is that it doesn't matter how many trolls anybody throws at the US. It really doesn't matter, because we have the most of the best trolls on the planet of the Earth.
We have the best trolls in the world. Okay.
And I mean, our president is like troll in chief.
Those Russian trolls, my dude. Those Russian trolls, I've only met like one.
Like an actual?
Yeah, like an actual one, but like they're dope.
No, keep going.
No, I was just saying they're fun. They usually give you a run for your money. They try to get you triggered, and sometimes they'll make you really pissed off.
Damn. Yeah.
So, sorry, I got my pizza. Not that kind of pizza.
Damn.
This next video. Sorry, bad segue. My bad. So I found this video earlier this week, and I saw it, and I was like, I have to say this for the podcast. Completely abhorrent. Fits really well with the Twitter thing, because, well, it's just basically more disinfo. This is literally a story about NPCs being NPCs.
The word you're looking for is aberrant. You're pronouncing it wrong, incorrectly. Your whole argument is invalid.
A high school marching band's performance in the U.S. state of Mississippi has sparked anger as students enacted holding policemen at gunpoint. Pictures show members of Forest Hill's band, doctors and nurses.
Pause that.
What the fuck?
Look at that.
What the fuck?
That is at a school on the football field by the fucking band, and they're pointing guns, plastic guns, at the police. I don't know about you guys, but I got suspended from school for bringing a firecracker.
I got suspended from school for writing Pink Floyd lyrics. What the fuck? Granted, nobody ever really listened to the final cut, so it's not really their big thing, but I mean, goddamn, come on.
All right, let's see how the school principal and the administrators do some backflips to try to convince themselves that this wasn't a bad idea from the get-go.
And armed with toy guns. The performance was delivered during a high school football game. The officials, meanwhile, have slammed the show.
I mean, it is RT.
This is unacceptable in a civilized society. Someone should be held accountable.
Why would any high school marching band ever need fake guns? Have they been performing this routine all year?
I'll be making a complaint to the Mississippi High School Activities Association, as well as the Forest Hill and GPS administration. How could any administrator think that halftime show was appropriate?
Last night, Forest Hill's band performed a halftime show at Brookhaven High School depicting police officers being held at gunpoint. Absolutely disgusting.
Do we have another side
the
of this?
incident certainly struck a chord, as it comes less than a week after two local officers were shot dead in the line of duty. The head of Jackson Public Schools has issued an apology for the performance.
The band's performance does not depict the values and people in our community, and was incredibly insensitive to the students' families, law enforcement officials, and the entire Brookhaven community. For this, we sincerely apologise to all, and we pledge to do better in the future.
Superintendent didn't even know about it.
So we got a reaction to the student's performance from former police officer Dominic Izzo.
These are becoming more commonplace lately, and I think it's unfortunate. Kids are the easiest ones to play off their emotions. Today's youth is an army for the future to indoctrinate them with beliefs that just are inaccurate, and we're forcing them, we're indoctrinating them into being soldiers into either conservative or liberal side. And I think this is just the effect of false-fed information and emotions that are pouring gasoline on emotions and letting them run wild with their imaginations. Poor kids, they're being brainwashed and they're being fed into falsehoods. That's all the incentive you need. Poison the youth. You make the youth work for you. I do want them to be more held accountable. You know, with these police protests or violence, I'm really torn about the issue because I want to be fair to everyone across the board. And just because I didn't like something doesn't mean that it's not okay.
Cool. That's not bad. Did you notice the cut at the beginning of that guy's monologue?
A little bit. No.
Yeah, it was like they did an interview with him and they just cut that part out and played it in the clip. Because, like, he started off mid-sentence.
So just ultimate straightforward propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, it is propaganda, but it is really happening. But it is propaganda, but it is really happening. You know what I mean? Like the MSM, they do report on real news, but they're also propaganda, so they spin the news so that it's fake. You get what I'm saying?
I do not.
Okay. It starts with a kernel of truth, right? So, like, this actually happened at the high school. These are things that are happening at other high schools. Here's the thing. They don't bother to go in and see what the rates are of this happening in other schools. They don't investigate it happening in other areas nearby. Like, they don't do none of that. All they do is show the outrage, right? So they're like, here's the problem. Here's the outrage. Profit. That's fake news. That's propaganda. Like, the real news would be like, this happened. This is why it happened. This is who approved it. These are the people that got punished. And this is what they're doing going forward. And then, you know, interviewing people associated. Instead, they just literally went to the politicians, the damn, you know, former, you know, no-name cop that's calling in from Skype on his fucking iPhone 4. Like, come on. Ham-fisted. Come on, RT.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Yeah.
But regardless, like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Fucking kidding me? That's absurd. I cannot believe those people ever got let to do that. The entire school's administrative staff needs to be sacked.
Oh yeah. If I was a parent in that area, you best know they'd be fucking hearing some shit.
Fuck yeah. All right. So we've been hearing a lot about Brexit over the last couple of weeks, and I don't have any new Brexit news for you guys, but what I do have is a little bit of an update with the Italy situation. There's been a lot of tension between Italy and the EU. Italy's going into bankruptcy. It's going to damage the EU as a result, and they might be able to separate themselves. So we're watching the slow motion fracturing of the European Union, and I gotta say it. But let's check out the next clip.
Can't wait to see the time lapse.
If I may, Francois, I don't think the Brexit crisis is nearly as big as the crisis we see looming in Italy right now, where the Italians put in a budget to the European Commission that the Commission cannot even begin to accept. And they're going to use this to challenge the legitimacy of the Commission itself. Salvini, who will be the next Prime Minister of Italy, almost certainly, very far right, very good friend of Steve Bannon, who wants to tear the European Union apart. All that is going on, and I don't think people are paying enough attention. I think
are you saying
we're
it's
wasting
a bigger
lot of time
crisis
on
for
Brexit.
Europe than
yes,
Brexit?
Absolutely. It's in the heart of the Eurozone. It's much more important in many ways than Great Britain is.
Lisa Rubin, you agree?
I certainly think that there will be at some point a negotiated solution for Brexit, and at the moment, Italy is what I think the third outside of Britain, France, Germany. It's the next biggest economy, and if it were to leave the Eurozone or to not pay or not accept all the rules, that's quite serious. It's much more serious.
And the goal is to destroy the European Union. The goal of Brexit was not to destroy the European Union; it was to get out of it. The goal of Salvini, just like Le Pen here in France, is to destroy it.
Huh.
You like that?
That's so that I don't know.
Okay, so here's the deal, right? So everyone has to submit a budget to the European Union. Italy's been having issues with their finances, and so they had to submit a new budget because, well, they can't cover all their expenses if they pay all the fucking European taxes and fees and all that bullshit, right? So they submitted a new budget. They said, fucking deal with it. That's what we can pay. And the European Union is like, no, pay me more, bitch. And they're like, fuck you, you're not elected. We're not going to pay you whatever. We're going to pay you whatever we want to pay you. And then the European Union goes back and says, fuck you, I've got all these other countries with me that'll tell you to fuck off. And then Italy turns back and says, let's see how much they stay on your side when they realize that I can pressure you into letting me pay less. Especially when, like,
correct.
Italy is like literally one of 3 big kids on the block.
See, when you're not able to negotiate price.
Well, it's so funny how they throw like RT. They throw around international law, yet they break international law all the fucking time. International law, the EU. Fuck off with your fucking fake ass elected shit. I live in America, bitch.
Yep.
They end up with $15,000 cars costing $30.
Yep. But yeah, same thing with Italians, yo. They have their own sovereignty, and they're trying to basically, throw their weight around and say, hey, we're not going to put up with your bullshit rules if we think they're bullshit, so you better fucking treat us fairly. That's what this is about. Like, they don't want to destroy the European Union like this fucking retard says. They don't agree with the European Union. They want it restructured.
The European Federation.
Yeah, it just is the way it's not the way it should be, and it's abusing its constituent country.
Damn right it is.
That's just mine. All right, so you guys been watching the Trump rallies this week, yeah?
Oh, yeah, off and on. Was
planning on
trying to go to the one tomorrow in Houston, but unfortunately unable to make that. Was gonna try to get some more footage, but
there's gonna be you might, if you like, it's kind of a bummer you can't go because there's gonna be 100,000 people there and they're doing a tailgate.
Yeah.
Word, dude. These fucking rallies, bro. Nobody's ever seen anything like this, right? Nobody in the fucking, like, what the fuck is this?
Kind of imagine it's like an anime convention, except without, all the cosplayers and especially without furries.
With a lot more
Hillary Clinton can't fill a fucking goddamn gymnasium at a fucking local junior high school. Fucking Donald Trump can't fit his fucking people in a goddamn city.
Yeah, I read a tweet today by Kurt Russell that said someone was asking him, they're like, why don't Trump, do these rallies in bigger venues? The reply he got was probably security concerns. Otherwise, they'd turn the whole state of Texas into a fucking rally.
Right? Holy fuck. I'll tell you what.
Turn my speakers up for that.
It's pretty true. But yeah, it's pretty excellent. So we've got this big looming migrant crisis, and it looks like CBS this morning kind of took some of Trump's words at the rally and ran with them.
Let's see which ones.
This morning, thousands of immigrants are hoping to continue their trek toward the U.S. border from Central America. Their caravan is at the border separating Guatemala with Mexico. Last night in Arizona, President Trump warned that the caravan must be stopped before it reaches the United States. The president of Honduras and Guatemala will meet today to talk about returning the migrants to Honduras. Chip Reed is traveling with the president and is in Phoenix. Chip, good morning.
Well, good morning. One of the president's most memorable promises during the presidential campaign was to build that wall on the Mexican border. But so far, little progress has been made, and polls suggest the issue of immigration may hurt his party's chances on Election Day, which is just 2.5 weeks away.
The Democrat Party is openly inviting millions of illegal aliens to break our laws, violate our borders, and overwhelm our nation.
Trying to fire up the Republican base before the midterm elections, President Trump focused on bashing Democrats.
Democrats produce mobs, Republicans produce jobs.
Yeah, kind of immigration laws.
We only are going to let people in based on merit. Yes, sir.
After touring Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, the president harshly criticized a caravan of migrants hoping to make their way to the southern U.S. border.
These are hardened
like a bunch
criminals.
of
These
young,
are
able-bodied men.
people. And I don't want them.
Those are all scientists,
the migrants
doctors,
tore down a fence
firemen,
in Guatemala,
engineers,
but were
chemists.
blocked by police at the Mexican border.
At all
The president's
those
rhetoric
docile
denouncing
food workers
immigration
who
does
just
not
want to
appear
get
to
a
be
job.
working in his favor. According to a recent CBS News poll, only 39% of registered voters approve of Mr. Trump's handling of immigration. At a roundtable with Arizona Republican Senate candidate Martha McSally, Mr. Trump once again stressed the importance of a border wall.
And we need a wall. We have to have a wall. We're building the wall now, but we should build it very fast. We should build it, frankly, we should build it even higher.
And while signing a presidential memorandum, he had a message for those in the caravan.
They might as well turn back. They're not coming into this country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
The president's western swing continues today in Nevada, where, like here in Arizona, a Republican candidate is locked in a tight Senate race. Anthony?
Chip Reed in.
Thanks, Chip Reed.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate that.
Chip, dude. That's the worst fucking name, bro. Chip. Fucking goddamn.
Hey, when was the last time you guys saw Kellyanne Conway?
I don't know. The other day I saw an interview. She was looking pretty good on the interview.
Couple of
You see the one where I bet you watched the one we're about to watch. She did an interview recently with Fox News. She touched on a few different subjects, like the migrant caravan and the whole Khashoggi situation. I thought her answer about, I guess his name is Khashoggi. Yeah, it's like Hugogi or some shit. I don't know.
Oh, god damn it.
Hekkahogi. Hekkahogi. Yeah,
Hekkahogi. That's the right.
Hekkahogi. I hear he makes a hell of a sandwich.
Word.
On to the next clip.
Migrant
families for everyone.
Kellyanne, thanks for being here today. You know, it's interesting. The president just then suggested that, you know, there might be more behind this and this sudden caravan right before the midterms. I must tell you, it seems to have happened all of a sudden. I mean, I haven't heard about a caravan since Obama invited them in 2014 and 15. What do you think is the genesis of this sudden movement toward the U.S. border?
Savage.
Well, Judge, whatever the genesis, it's so great that the cameras and the Klieg lights are on, because I'm always a fan of just showing America what is really happening. Not just what is being curated through some of the reports and cherry picked through some of the reports, but just shine a light, bring the cameras. And now people can see what it really means. Before they saw what they called the kids in cages, which of course turned out many of them to be President Obama's kids in cages. But let them see what's actually happening, and let them juxtapose that with a president who is saying, in light of the modernized revolutionary trade deal, the USMCA, Mexican-Canadian-American trade deal, that we have better relationships with Mexico now. They respect this president and commander-in-chief, and they are helping now.
Yeah, Kellyanne, if they respect this president and commander-in-chief, and I believe you and I believe the president, I should be comfortable believing that Mexico is going to stop them before they come through the United States.
Well, they ought to do that, because I'll tell you, if you look statistically, Janine, and I want everyone to know that until very recently, the predominant trafficker, predominant person coming over the border was a single male, one male person coming in from Mexico. Now, 45% or so are family units are coming in, unaccompanied minors or people who say they're a family coming in from Central America. This is a problem because we are encouraging people to smuggle children over and pretend they are a family unit.
Right,
There's no way
Ding.
for folks to know instantly at the border. And by the way, I talked to a number of cabinet secretaries and other senior officials this week. Don't forget, our brave men and women at the border are doing the best that they can. And they risk their lives every single day to be there and ask legitimate questions. If you want to come through one of the 26 ports of entry, if you want to stand in line and immigrate into the world's most generous country to immigrants, you can do that. We're talking about the sexual assaults are up now. The child smuggling is up. The drug smuggling is up. All of this because we don't have, we're a sovereign nation without physical borders, and this president ran
Kellyanne,
and
I
won
want to talk
on exactly
about
that
the
issue.
statistics as it relates to the heroin crossing the border, how our southern borders are used by the cartel as a point of entry, that poison that is killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, 1,000 a week.
You know them Hondurans,
minimum.
man, they fucking
That's right. There's no doubt. This
dope.
president has had as a major focus stopping the drug supply and drug demand crisis that is rolling this nation. 72,000 Americans dead last year. 90% or so of all heroin in this country comes through the southern border. Obviously, the cocaine comes through the southern border. And now, increasingly, the fentanyl that is manufactured in the labs in China, we are told, is also coming through the southern border because everybody knows it's an easy way to get in. And so this is very problematic because this president, and many people don't focus on this, he's constantly talking about the poison coming over the southern border that is coming to your community. And this opioid and drug crisis is no longer somebody else's kid, somebody else's coworker, somebody else's community.
Oh, it's real
It's touching every nook and cranny in this country.
Well, there's no question about that. I want to move to something that's in the news right now, and that is the Khashoggi. The president seems to have indicated that he believes that the explanation from Khashoggi's death given by the Saudis, but there seems to be evidence of his being tortured and chokehold, that it wasn't just a fight, it was a planned execution with bone saws, etc.
I have no information to verify any of that. I'm going to stand by the comments that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, the President, have made that these investigations are ongoing. The President has made clear that there seems no other explanation other than that the gentleman is dead. And I can't get ahead of the completion of any other investigation. It's very disappointing to see a major network run a completely false report that our own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and our President said was completely false and fantastical, that somehow the Secretary of State heard an audio tape and or read a transcript from said audio tape. They went with a false report, and it's that kind of reporting that really hurts investigations and the conclusion of information, but I'm not going to get ahead of that.
Okay, all right, and it's that kind of false reporting that Americans believed is going on, which is why they elected the outsider president. Kellyanne
Well, I think it's why, look, that's right, and that's also why the media has a 20% approval rating. And look, the president has said, if in fact this happened, then there could be severe consequences. The vice president reiterated that.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Shut up. Stop ripping on me. Stop it. Even Fox News isn't immune. Oh, my Lord. That was funny. All right. So we got big news. Our next clip is fucking huge. Trump is going to pull us out of the nuclear arms treaty with Russia.
Orange man bad.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, did you hear about why?
Yeah, because they fucked up.
Yeah, they just keep building nukes. So let's go ahead and watch this. We probably won't watch all of it. Let's just get the gist of what everyone's talking points are and then move on to the next shit. Because we got a lot of bullshit to get through, and we already ran for an hour.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's get through this bullshit. Come on!
The US is pulling out of a nuclear missile pact with Russia. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty has been in place for more than 30 years. President Trump accused Moscow of violating the deal.
Russia has violated the agreement. Yeah. They've been violating it for many years, and I don't know why President Obama didn't negotiate or pull out. And we're not going to let them violate a nuclear agreement and go out and do weapons, and we're not allowed to. We're the ones that have stayed in the agreement, and we've honored the agreement, but Russia has not, unfortunately, honored the agreement. So we're going to terminate the agreement. We're going to pull out. Unless Russia comes to us and China comes to us and they all come to us and they say, let's really get smart and let's none of us develop those weapons. But if Russia's doing it and if China's doing it and we're adhering to the agreement, that's unacceptable. So we have a tremendous amount of money to play with on our military.
The treaty has been in force since 1987. Under the pact, Russia and the US required to eliminate nuclear missiles with a range of 1,000 to 5,500 kilometers. But the deal does not include sea-launched missiles. It was seen as a key milestone in ending the Cold War. Russia has repeatedly said it will keep observing the INF Treaty as long as the US does. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin said last year that if Washington were to renounce its obligations, Moscow would do the same.
If our American partners exit the agreement, we will give an immediate and reciprocal response. We have complied with the agreement, and we will continue to do so as long as our partners do the same.
We're joined now by Michael Malou, former Pentagon security official. Thanks, Michael, for coming onto the program.
Let's go ahead and stop it right there. We don't need to hear Michael.
All right.
Fuck Michael.
Probably heard from him before.
Nobody likes Michael anyway. That's pretty big news, huh? We're going to be building nukes again, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that was coming. That's been coming down the pipe.
I mean, we do need to update our arsenal, to be quite frank.
I'm just powered by a couple of hamsters and you know, some paper clips and rubber bands and stuff like that. So yeah, we kind of need to upgrade.
Yeah. So did you guys watch the entire left wing meltdown over Kanye West being in the Oval Office?
The entire thing? No, I do not have enough time nor enough patience.
Let's watch this real quick. This is pretty funny how they reacted after Kanye West went to the White House.
Will this hurt my feelings?
Not yours, but they might hurt your buddies.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. There was an unexpected and kind of amazing moment at the White House today. Kanye West, the rapper, showed up in the Oval Office and proceeded to give what amounted to effectively a campaign speech while sitting directly across from the President of the United States and while pounding on the presidential desk. You've likely already seen pictures of what happened. It's everywhere. And the scene may have confused you. You might have concluded it was a publicity stunt staged by famous people in order to become more famous. You may have found yourself muttering about the debased and celebrity-centered focus of our public discourse these days. You may even have felt a little sad, knowing that the dignified country you grew up in is gone for good. You can be forgiven for reaching those conclusions, but they're not the whole story of what happened today. Believe it or not, Kanye West said some genuinely interesting things this afternoon. Things we ought to be talking about in public, but are not. He'll probably destroy his career for saying them. He'll certainly be despised by many of his former friends. But before any of that happens, let's consider what he actually said. We'll go with the most offensive things first. Here they are.
You know, people expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. I've had conversations that basically said that welfare is the reason why a lot of black people end up being Democrat. They say, you know, first of all, it's a limit to amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home. I think it's the bravery that helps you beat this game called life. You know, they tried to scare me to not wear this hat, my own friends, but this hat, it gives me power in a way. You know, my dad and my mom separated, so I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home. You know, I love Hillary, I love everyone, right? But the campaign, I'm with her, just didn't make me feel as a guy that didn't get to see my dad all the time, like a guy that could play catch with his son.
She didn't make me feel like a guy who could play catch with his son. West didn't explain exactly what he meant by that, and yet at the very same time, he could not have put it more precisely or more poignantly. He grew up in a party whose policies have systematically destroyed the American family, especially in poor neighborhoods. I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home, West said with obvious sadness. Millions of American kids know exactly what he is talking about. The Democratic Party won't acknowledge these kids or their loss. To party leaders, fathers in the home are at best irrelevant. At worst, they're an impediment to political power. Married women tend to vote Republican, and they know that. When prominent Democrats attack the patriarchy, what they're attacking is fathers. When they wage war on toxic masculinity, what they're trying to suppress is masculinity itself. Everybody knows this. Few are brave enough to say it out loud. West essentially did, and then he kept going. Watch this.
So, and that's a move. One of the moves that I love that liberals tried to do, the liberal would try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people. So when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me? Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall.
Boom, right there, man.
You think racism can control me? It's an invisible wall. The reporters looking on seemed stunned, even betrayed. And then just to rub it in, West went on to defend the Bill of Rights. Watch.
What about gun violence with all the debate about the Second Amendment going on?
The problem is illegal guns. Illegal guns is the problem, not legal guns. We have the right to bear arms.
What do we make of all of this? Well, obviously, just from watching, you can tell that Kanye West is an eccentric guy. He meanders. He talks like someone who's never had to filter his thoughts, which he probably never has had to do. But much like someone else who comes to mind, West may be precisely crazy enough to think for himself. And that's a valuable quality right now. No consultant advised him to say any of that. Clearly, nobody controls him. Sometimes he doesn't control himself. But listen carefully to what he said. Sprinkled throughout his ramblings are flashes of truth, real insights into the way the world actually is, rather than the way they tell us it is. Nobody else is allowed to talk this way. Go ahead and try it at work. You'll get fired.
Yep.
West doesn't care, and that makes him dangerous to a system that is based almost entirely on piety and lying. If you're benefiting from a system like that, Kanye West must be crushed. Here's the math of it. The Democratic presidential candidates, everyone who runs, needs to get almost the entire black vote in order to win a national election. That's not easy to do, so in order to do it, Democrats sow racial division. They pit Americans against each other based on their ethnicity. You can't support them. They're the wrong color. You hear that all the time. It's now the essential Democratic argument. It's destructive, but more ominously for Democrats, it may no longer be working. A poll by Public Broadcasting just last week found that Trump's approval rating with Hispanic voters is 41%. That's higher than it is with college-educated white voters. If anything like that ever happened among African-American voters, the game would be over. So that can't happen. Kanye West must be destroyed. And so the thought police swooped in almost immediately to arrest this disobedient artist and declare him incompetent.
Wow. Okay, I'm doing this for everybody who's watching us who turned their volume down. You can put it back up again. That
but
was
if you think you're
bonkers.
going to get a thoughtful play-by-play and political analysis, you're not, because that was an assault on our White House.
It was a combination of stream of consciousness. I felt like I was sitting in on a psychiatric visit and a commercial for Donald Trump.
What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself.
What?
And embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans.
What?
Yeah. Shut up, Kanye. You're crazy. Keep in mind, this is coming from the same people who believe Hillary Clinton is entirely well, indeed a serious person. They're hoping this works, this crazy stuff, and that you believe them. And just in case you don't, they want to remind you that Kanye West is a race traitor, as Don Lemon just said, who has a low IQ. Here was CNN on Tuesday night.
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read. And we have this now, and now Donald Trump is going to use it and pervert it, and he's going to have somebody who can stand with him and take pictures.
Did you not see this yet?
Kanye, because he's put on a MAGA hat and he's an attention whore like the president, he's all of a sudden now the model spokesperson. He's the token Negro of the Trump administration.
There it is. Ding, ding,
Got
ding.
that?
Glad I
He
picked
can't read because he's the N-word.
you guys don't
That's
know
what the
this.
liberals on a
Pause
liberal
that.
cable channel are
Hold
now
up. Hold the phone, because that's not just a MAGA hat, political. Do you know the story of Kanye's MAGA hat?
The signed one?
No, dude. That MAGA hat is custom made. He had his manufacturing company custom make him a specific style MAGA hat.
Nice. I want one.
Right, dude? It's like it has the soft back and everything. It's not like a trucker style. It's different, dude.
Word.
Anyway, let's go on. Sorry, I had to talk about it.
Few seconds left.
Telling you, but they have no choice. They are terrified you will listen to what Kanye West is saying, and that's not allowed.
Yeah, you can't listen to Kanye West.
That ain't allowed, man. I mean, I always wondered where it was that.
Hey, whoa, boss. He's the token Negro, and you're supposed to be aware of that. Aren't you our resident NPC today?
All right.
You're gonna.
It's got to be unhinged.
You know, political.
He's crazy.
You're gonna really, really like our clip later.
Nice.
All right. Okay, so we got 2 more news clips, and then we're going into the high note, which is really more like your moment of now, type video. So let's watch CNN try to come to terms with the Cherokee Nation shitting on Elizabeth Warren for being 124th fucking.
So proud to die.
Yeah.
Tonight, the leaders of the Cherokee Nation are speaking out against Senator Elizabeth Warren's campaign video touting her Native American ancestry courtesy of a newly revealed DNA test. The tribe saying in part, quote, a DNA test is useless to determine tribal citizenship. Out front now, the Secretary of State for the Cherokee Nation, Chuck Hoskin Jr. Thanks so much for joining us. Why do you
really
find
have to be looking
this
at Beto's
offensive?
face?
Well, Jake, thanks for having me on. The problem with the DNA test is that it proves nothing of relevance to whether a person is a citizen of an Indian nation, a member of an Indian nation. DNA at best can give you some indicators of some markers that indicate that you're related to somebody who lived long ago that may have lived in North and South America, may have been a native peoples of those continents. It's irrelevant to what it means to be a Native American in this country. That's based on a legal definition. Certainly every tribe has that in common, that we have some legal basis for our citizenship that we determine consistent with federal treaties. Just wholly unhelpful for any national leader to cling to DNA to determine or to establish that they're Native American in this country.
Okay, so just to play devil's advocate, she said in her statement that she's not claiming that she belongs to any nation, any tribal association, that this was just about the fact that she had been told as a child that she had Native American heritage, that she had a distant relative, and she wanted to see if there was any truth to that. But still, even that you object to.
Well, because it really doesn't drill down to the issue of whether a person has Cherokee ancestry, for example, or ancestry of any particular tribe. It's useful to connect yourself with some lineage. It's useful to determine paternity, but it doesn't narrow down the scope of who your ancestors were to any identifiable tribe. And unfortunately, we are sometimes a marginalized people who are not understood by mainstream society. We have trouble sometimes in the courts. We have trouble sometimes in the Congress. We need to be clear about what it means to be a Native American and Indian in this country. And it really comes down to a legal status that we frankly have fought long and hard for, and we're very proud of. Look, what she's doing, I think, is a response to what the President of the United States has said. And in Indian country, we're looking at Washington, D.C., and what we want is help, and we want leadership, and it's not particularly helpful to Indian country for this kind of debate to go back and forth. We have a lot of issues. We would rather the President of the United States and Senator Warren focus in on things that affect us: housing and health care, clean water, clean air. There's a lot of issues that we could use their leadership on. We don't think it's particularly useful to have them in a back and forth about DNA test and name calling and that sort of thing.
Boom. I totally hear you on that. Obviously, the Native American community has a lot of issues that deserve more attention from leaders than whether one senator has that kind of blood, but has any heritage, rather, has any blood from any specific group. But let me ask you a question. You brought up President Trump. I know you're offended by what Senator Warren did and her past claims to heritage. How do you feel about President Trump calling her Pocahontas?
Oh, she doesn't deserve it, and I think it's a term that he means in a derisive way, and it's not helpful to the national debate. I mean, Indian country needs leaders in Washington who understand our issues, not who get in a back and forth of name calling. So I don't think the president's particularly helpful in taking those shots at Elizabeth Warren. I don't think she's particularly helpful for going back and saying, look, I've got my DNA results, see what they show. I think what they need to do is bear down and focus on, again, those issues I touched on that affect Indian country. I mean, Indian country deserves leaders of the United States who will be champions of our issues, not fight back and forth and call each other names. So I don't think the president was particularly helpful in that regard.
And before you go, this has been a very educating experience for a lot of us who don't know anything about this debate. And maybe Senator Warren is among them.
I don't know anything
but let me just
about
say,
Indians.
I had no idea that Native Americans got so offended when people talked about whether it's through, Ancestry.com tests, DNA tests, or even just family lore about having Native American history in their family. Why is that offensive? Explain to our viewers, if you would.
Well, I certainly don't begrudge any American for having family stories that they share, but when it comes down to claiming that you're a Native American, let's keep in mind the history of Native Americans in this country. A long and very difficult history, at times some very dark chapters, many treaties that were broken, but those treaties and those laws that remain in our own tribal statutes say what it means to be a Native American. We are sovereign nations. We ought to be taken serious in that regard. We ought to be respected in terms of what it means, for example, to be a Cherokee. And so anytime somebody says, I'm Cherokee and I have a family story that can prove it, I've got great respect for family stories, but look, when it comes down to are you a Cherokee citizen, that means something under the laws of this country and the laws of the Cherokee Nation.
All right, Chuck Hoskin, thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah.
Damn. Ripped into that. Oh my goodness.
So, I just want to interject for just a moment. I used to be married to a Native American woman, and I can tell you right now, unequivocally, that if I asked her about Elizabeth Warren's fucking DNA test, she would start swearing.
Now, would that be because you're contacting her like just out of the blue to ask about that crap instead of like the rest of the stuff, or?
Could be a little bit of both. Could be some of that. God damn.
Weren't expecting that curveball, were you?
I got my catcher's mitt on. I just wasn't ready. All right. Wow, that was spicy. Woo! Woo! You give me some fucking ranch dressing. So, right. The only reason is to virtue signal. I love our chat. Okay. So, looking at the list, we got one more news clip, and then we're on to the who's in what's it. Do you think the left has had enough of Hillary Clinton?
No, I don't think they have.
Dude, bro. Oh my God. I saw a few articles. Bro, I think she's going to do it. I'm so excited. If she does it, oh my God.
I think she's going to run again.
Dude.
The implication.
God.
Tucker again.
Tucker.
Hillary Clinton failed the Democratic Party 2 years ago, but she's been determined to remain in the public eye ever since. Now the New York Times editorial board is fed up with it. In an opinion piece, board member Michelle Cottle complains about Clinton's masterclass in distraction. She says Clinton's recent stunts, her attacks on civility, for example, are diluting the party's message and could cause them to suffer more defeats at the ballot box. In short, Hillary, please go away for just a few minutes. Dave Rubin hosts the Rubin Report, and he joins us tonight. What do you make of that? Great to see you, by the way.
Good to see you,
One of the benefits of being in Los Angeles is you're on the set. What do you make of Hillary Clinton she is still the standard bearer of the party, isn't she? She was the last nominee.
Yeah, look, this line about civility, that we can no longer be civil with our political opponents, think about what that really means. Just word it differently. We should start being uncivil, right? That's what she's really saying. So what does that really mean? Hunt them down in restaurants, find them in elevators, go to their jobs? Should we stop them on the road? where does this go? The thing that we have in America is that we
Find
can
them
do
at
this
softball
every night.
parks.
You, Tucker Carlson, can argue with someone about something political.
Yes.
And it doesn't get violent, and you wrap it up at the end of the day, and you go home and you do it again the next day. Civility is all we have, and they're making it very clear. And this is something, I say this as someone that was on the left my whole life. I've never voted. I think one time in my life I voted for a Republican, which was Mike Bloomberg at his third term in New York City a long time ago, and that's really a hazy Republican situation, right? So I say this as someone that's been trying to call it out from what I considered my side for a long time. It's like, guys, let's rein this back in a little bit, because what is after civility? And I think we both know what it is, and it's pretty dangerous.
I wonder if she does.
I think they've realized that they've lost control of the party. The Clinton machine doesn't have control of the party anymore. The party's going through this democratic socialist or socialist Democrat, whatever this thing, they'll drop the Democrat part soon enough. And she's trying to grab anything that'll make her feel relevant again. And she's not really that relevant. And in a weird way, she has to get out of the way for this other thing to take over. Not that I think the other thing is great, because believe me, I actually think this other thing, the more far left-wing party, is much worse.
Yeah, I'd take Hillary Clinton any day over some of these people.
We're going to look back and go, man, the Clintons were the good old days. And I say this, I voted for Bill Clinton twice. Okay, so Hillary, they're losing control, and that's why Eric Holder, when they go low, we kick them. All of these things, these are not coincidences.
Right.
This is not, Maxine Waters find them and hunt them down, or whatever she said, and Cory Booker did the same thing. And I've seen articles about find Tucker Carlson in a restaurant. He's so upset that he won't be able to go to a restaurant. And it's like, if that's where we're at, we will look back and go, man, we really screwed up the most beautiful experiment that has ever been done in world history about how do you get different people from all over the world to come together and live together. We've done it right here. And it doesn't mean it's perfect for everyone. It doesn't mean that there aren't some racists. It doesn't mean that we have class issues and economic issues and all sorts of things. But if we don't pull back this thing, it will be much worse. And it will be much worse faster than anyone can imagine.
It's totally right, because it's more fragile than we acknowledge.
Yeah.
Dave Rubin, great to see you.
Likewise, my
friend.
Very
much.
To the chat, John Girl. I just want to point out, when he says experiment, he's talking about the experiment of democracy. We're really the first truly democratic republic. Just saying. So I found a fun clip. NPC meme is a big deal this week, and fucking, we chose our title card as the NPC meme. It's got Twitter on fire. So I just, boss, I was thinking of you when I found this clip.
No freedom of thought.
I don't know if you guys will recognize this, but this is from an old movie called They Live, and well, you'll get the gist once we get through this.
I have no idea who John Carpenter is. I still see a sign.
The fuck? Said Jay-Z.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
How are you today, sir?
Okay, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, sir. Here you are, sir. Thank you.
That was the best ever, dude. I love that.
That offended me.
I saw that and I was
It was hella dope.
Oh my god. I've seen the shorter version of that, but oh my god, worth it. 10 times worth it. Oh my. Well, that's pretty much a wrap for the show. Probably you guys good for next week?
I hope so. I mean, unless my wife literally has her baby that day, I should be good.
She might pop.
Happens midstream.
Midstream?
I gotta go, guys. Oh shit, water broke.
Shit, it's midstream. Toilet baby on the way.
What?
Oh, not that kind of stream. My bad.
Did you say toilet baby?
Yeah, what the
fuck? Thanks, Stuart.
All right, yeah.
You want to take us out, boss?
Yeah, I guess we'll take it out on that. On toilet baby. Seems like a good point.
God, that's like...
All right, well,
maybe...
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Maybe next episode, Political will be a new, a proud papa, like, for the 3rd time.
All right. Yeah, that'll be something to celebrate if that happens. But, all right, we'll see when that happens then. We'll be back next Sunday, of course. At our new time, 6 o'clock, all that. I don't know, what are our times again?
4 p.m. PDT.
Dude, you guys
I think we're going back to
5
Pacific
p.m. MST.
5 p.m. MST.
All right.
What is that, 7 p.m. EST?
I have no idea.
Mountain Standard Time, man. 5 p.m.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all have an awesome week ahead of you. I hope you guys have a kick-ass work week as well. We know that all y'all are out there working, doing your thing and all that. Big thanks to Breadbox, of course, for putting all this together. Fucking rocks with that. Political.
I try.
Fucking rock, man. Thank you for joining us there.
Bye,
everybody in the
water.
chat, to all of our amazing friends out there, and to our moderators and stuff, Bilalu, thank you for doing what you do. And we hope everybody has an awesome week ahead of them. And,
oh my, fire water.
Buy water.
I feel like I beat you.
Buy water.
No, fuck. No, goddamn it.